Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Board meeting of March 12th, 2020. We are reconvening our regular meeting after we returned from closed session at 7:31. First off, I attended the Antelope Valley AB SELPA CAC committee meeting mainly because there are issues that affect one of my children, and their topic was about making transition from school age to adulthood and the programs and trusts and financials that go with that. As usual, the person that attends the CAC committee meeting will get a packet off to Yolanda on file for anyone that needs to see that. Brandon, thank you for discussing the voting. I went down there and looked at it, saw how the lunchroom was set up, the bathrooms and everything, and your description was very accurate. And I appreciate it that you, especially in your position as a regional political representative, that you show up there and check that out. Thank you for that. Okay, now we're going to do the Ken version of the virus. Okay, I want you to know that I work for an agency that's very progressive. The agency that I work for, our population in town varies from 35,000 at night when everyone leaves, depending on what the pop star is, what president happens to be in town, to 200,000 people. And that's coming and going every day. You have people driving down Santa Monica Boulevard making 100,000 trips a day sometimes of cars. Believe it or not, some of those people actually are coming from LAX, and they're stopping and they're looking at whatever they're going to buy, or maybe they stop at the library or whatever. And in the agency I work for, there's a very high expectation, almost an entitlement level expectation of customer service. And you may ask, what does that have to do with here? Well, we also here have a very high level of expectation for customer service. We're quick to be vocal about it, and we're small enough to be vocal about it and expect that we're going to get that kind of service. Now, here's what my day looks like. Starting about a month ago, we were asked to provide staffing impacts as to critical services, critical staffing that could supply those services, how we would operate as managers from home, remote locations. Our financial people are able to take a look at devaluations in currency exchange rates and determine that if that happens and this happens, and our transient occupancy tax would result in this, and then the budget projection for you, Mr. Pfalzgraf, in the department you manage would look like this on this end of it and 2 years out. So they're able to make those calculations just like that. I'm hearing things about how budgets are impacted, how programs are impacted. And again, I work in a place that is basically an inoculation zone. Some people don't fly direct. They stop in 3 or 4 airports around the world. I have no control over whether they're going to go see the doctor when they get back or they're going to report any of that. But that said, I think there's a lot of comparison between the customer service that we give here and the customer service that's expected out of me there. And I think that level of expectation is good, and it drives an agency, especially if you have any cognizance of your brand. Now, that takes us up to the oversight agencies. I think that unless you're living under a rock, the old days of this agency up here, like say the water district that gives us our water, the idea that they're going to take care of you all the time is going away. Trust that. And what they're starting to be more about is they are an insurance agency in case your local plan fails. I want you to think about that, what it means to you in terms of personally where your water comes from and that type of thing. But I'll tell you, even though they're getting away from being the service provider directly, they will come in If we fail here, they'll come in and appoint someone to take over the school district, get rid of everybody and do what they want to do. They're happy to do that. They're also happy to give you knee-jerk reactions from some politician that decides, well, I don't want to be the first agency that allows one person to get sick, so I'm going to make these broad, sweeping decisions that affect local people like us and that type of thing. So I want everybody to remember that when this hits, there are people that depend on this district to supply, for example, the new program of child care before and after. There are parents that travel to work. They expect that there will be a job there for them. You can see something like this from a poor political reaction dive into something that affects the long-term financial liability of families, and I think we want to remember that. The oversight agencies, whatever they're going to do, but as personal, looking at our own personal obligations, if you are sick, don't come in. If you have a cold, when you go to the doctor and say, hey, I need to have this checked out, they have this new thing called return to work. It's not for kids only. You can come back in and say, hey, I went and got checked out. It's just a little cough. But don't go to work and freak everybody out and get them all excited. Next thing, we've worked so hard. You'll see that the superintendent, when he gives his report, it ties back to his relations with the community, the program's relations to the community, and it's by number. That's not by accident. We are going to evaluate him on his ability to meet the plan, the strategic goal plan, not whether I like him or not, because trust me, he's learning not to like me that much. Anyway, that said, understand what our district is about. We're not about supplying online services at the drop of a hat. If you want that, there are plenty of charter schools. I think we got 14 of them that do it. So, but our model is about putting a kid in a classroom that has a live person there that's dedicated to our school system, our community, and the future of our children. For somebody to walk up and say, you know what, teacher, I don't understand this. I lost something back here, and we get a good response from our teachers. We're not about computers. We're not about robots, and our system is not built out right now to all of a sudden jump online and pretend we're going to give the same quality of education we give in our school every day. So I would hope when we're on social media barking about that we would take a minute. What was the last thing? Oh, the last four. I'm a little bit premature. Understand and respect district policies and procedures. That's exactly what that means. And maintain a respect for the rich history of the district and the efforts of others who have served in the past. And that is 100 years of people making our district what it is today and the service level it provides today. So I'm insulted when someone insults our brand. And finally, imagine, I have to be careful with this. Imagine I go to work and I'm standing at the water cooler half the day, which, yeah, that makes me employee of the year, right? And I start worrying about the coronavirus, and I talk about somebody, you know, I heard that guys that are like over 60 or almost 60, like in 2 weeks, yeah, I get my present. They kind of get it, especially if they have hair like Pfalzgraf and they have, you know, the C6 Steve starter kit, graying beard going on. And you know what? He wasn't here today. Well, that's because I was somewhere else. So all of a sudden the rumor starts, Pfalzgraf's got the coronavirus. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And then there are people actually going around putting up signs by people's house. Have you seen this? Infected. Have you seen this? I don't see it here, but you see it elsewhere. That's why I don't live elsewhere. But I want you to think about this. When you're gossiping like that and all over social media with that kind of stuff, think about what it does to the district. Think about what the work it does to the district, the work it does to undermine the district. I want you to, staff, please don't engage in that kind of behavior. I sat in a staff meeting today where we were lectured by an HR person about the liability that comes with an employee doing this type of thing. I was enthralled, believe me. And finally, if you don't get it, you can personally, if you damage someone's reputation this way, they'll be living in your house. There's legal liabilities that go with it. So don't be hysterical and understand that Larry's not making knee-jerk reactions, but if the state says don't do this, and the county says don't do this, then we have some level of compliance, but that doesn't mean we need to sit back and wait for these agencies to babysit us, because we're getting away from that model. I think public agencies are infamous, some of them, for not providing employee evaluations. Holes in employee evaluations are not fair to the decent employees that are stable and just want to know at the end of the year, hey, I'm moving ahead and I'm appreciated. I think that if you have an evaluation that's coming that is not a good evaluation, I think that the wrong time to communicate that is at the time of the evaluation, and that there are regular meetings and stuff. So in the agency I work for, if my evaluation chain below me is not in order, then my evaluation reflects that, and that's not positive. So that said, we understand that people aren't to be penalized and that things happen in life, and I think that the evaluations of the people that are in place have been positive for the most part. There's nothing worse than going into a meeting and having somebody yelling and freaking out and having to shut the meeting down because they're overrunning the timer, and people being overpowered and all that type of thing. It doesn't create for a cohesive environment, and it undermines everything about the district's strategic plan, and it's a slap in the face to anyone, staff member, administrator, or member of the public that work hard to set, these are the measurables and this is how we're going to rate our brand in the district. So this was very important to me. Progressive agencies have these, and typically what happens is after the flag salute, you read this to set off the tone of the meeting. And so I'm very happy about this, and I'm very proud of the work that the parent groups did to make this a reality. So I'm going to read it one more time, and I'm going to ask the board to support me in its adoption. You are to communicate clearly and concisely with respect for the time of others. Listen objectively, carefully considering the opinions of others. Understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors. Understand and respect district policies and procedures, and maintain a respect for the rich history of the district and the efforts of others who have served in the past. Before I open this up to comment, Lillian, thank you for publishing this in your paper, word for word. I also want to thank you for publishing the strategic plan and all of its subplanks in your newspaper, word for word. Thank you. Is this something that would be posted at the school sites?
Yes.
Perfect. Here. I know while I'm present, I will read this every time right after the flag salute. Couple things I want to point out. Lynn's role is to report reality. Lynn's role is to, if there needs to be something put in a fund that anticipates a problem, then that's what Lynn does, and the board supports her in doing that. I would suggest that everyone recall that about 25% of the district's budget that is needed tomorrow morning to operate the school is dependent on charter revenue. I think that if you look at the chart, there's about $6 million there, and I think that if you look at the news very closely, you will discover that someone is looking to recover every bit of money that this district has ever been paid in excess of what the actual cost to do the oversight is. That is very sobering. So if you're astute, you will watch the balance that is in the local revenue part. To Mike's point, if you are going to look at costs and start cutting down and looking where things are, and you're cognizant of our brand and what our goals are for this strategic plan, you want to provide continuum in education. You don't want long-term subs. You don't want that kind of thing. But of course things happen and people have lives and that type of thing. But to Mike's point, if you do historic regressions on how many trees fell out of the sky last year and the 3 years before and how much I had to pay in an emergency response, that's a standard budget calculation for me. So to Mike's point, when we start fine-tuning what's going on, I think we look at historic regression as a means of informing this thing. But that said, I've told you everything you need to know, and we're very transparent up here, and we encourage Lynn to write the numbers down, whatever they are and whatever they mean. And if you're astute, you'll look at those numbers and kind of see what challenges could be on the forefront. Thank you, Lynn. Now, as you look at those names, this is in legal jargon, a means to identify who your adversaries might be and who your parties of interest might be. This is a legal case. So you see people like the district attorney for the county of San Diego, the assistant district attorney. You see people above that used to stand at this stand right here and want us to sponsor them, and that type of thing. So if you're astute at all, you'll connect my last comments to what you're seeing here and inform yourself. Okay? So I've said what I need to say, but this is going to result in some legal action, and once it begins, a lot of that stuff ends up in the back room, and you all know that. So thank you for making this transparent to the public. So there will be 3 seats open, this is an opportunity for me to thank everyone for their service and their dedication, and it's worth the money you get, right? But that said, if you throw your name in the hat, I would suggest you understand what you're diving into.